All right, this is exercise 65. So I'm gonna try and get up a little bit closer here. This is number 10. Earlier I did exercise, the same one, exercise 65, and did number 9. And so that one was a bit shorter. This one, as you can tell, this is a lengthier piece of translation. And so I just wanted to show you and just kind of model for you that I wrote out the sentence. Everything is in purple that we need to translate. And then you'll notice I did everything in color, in different colors, so that that first sentence is labeled in black. And then the translation to that is down here in the black. And then you have the next sentence labeled in blue. And then you'll find that translation right down here. And then the green. And then finally the red. So it starts off, Gali in Cole errant. And so I labeled every part, and you'll notice that sometimes I have 2 labels. So this could be a singular genitive for Gali, or it could be a plural nominative. And I just like to place my options down for when I translate so that I sort of understand what I'm working with. And so then when I start to do stair-step translations, I just start right there with Gali, and I put the as if it's in the nominative, and I have an of as if it were to be a genitive. So I know that I have 2 options here that I can translate as the Gauls or of Gauls. Okay, then I also have in Cole, which we know based on its ending, it's in the ablative. Okay, and so I have in or on. I just place both options down when it's ablative. That just tells me that's it. That's my only option. It's definitely not accusative because I don't have other options. I don't have an underline there to indicate that's something else. Okay, so then I have in or on the hill. Okay, and then errant, they were, or it could also be there were, right? So I could tell though, based on the sentence structures, I was gonna be using the they were. So then I have the translation right below it. The Gauls were on the hill, right? And it's in the ablative. So on the hill tells us that there's no movement here. It's not in the accusative. Accusative, if it's the in or if it's an in, and it's the accusative, then it'll show movement. This does not show movement. Okay, so then we're going to move over to the next sentence. In Galos autem Caesaris milites impetum fecerant. Okay, and so that is all labeled in the blue there. A little bit harder for me to get over to my translation and still have you see that there, so I'm going to do my best to do that. So we have Caesaris. Let's see. No, sorry. We start at in Galos autem. Okay, so in Galos, we have then against the Gauls. Okay, so if we look back up here, we see it's labeled in the accusative because of the ending os on Galos. Okay, os, and so that os tells me it's accusative. It is plural. So then I'm going to come down here, and I placed against the Gauls. Typically I underline this, and I forgot to, but that underline would just indicate that I have other options. But I also typically will use the word against because I know that that's an accusative word and it's an indicator to me. So you might decide, I don't want to have to remember to underline. Well, then just put the word against because it's in, on, into, upon, or against. So I choose one of those other words that's specific to the accusative there. Okay, so against the Gauls. Then we have autem, which translates as however here. Okay, so autem, however. And then I have Caesaris, okay, which is of Caesar or Caesars with the apostrophe S. And then I have the soldiers for milites and impetum, meaning the or a attack. And then I have fecerant, which is all the way at the very end there, and it's plural. So I went ahead and I put the verb in parentheses. I put the pronoun there in parentheses just to indicate it's an option that I can use that if there's no nominative given, okay? And so then I go ahead and just translate. I start looking at all of this, and then I can sort of rearrange it as I'm working, that it doesn't make sense to start with against the Gauls. So I start looking for my subject here, and I start just kind of placing things together where I had Caesaris over here, I had Ingalos, however. So then I came over to Caesar's soldiers, however, made an attack against the Gauls. Okay, and then we come back up to our next part of translation here, and this is an interesting one to make note of because it has, we notice, okiderant, which is a verb, and it also has wikerant as a verb. And so you see two verbs in a sentence, which is interesting. So for me, I know that when I see okiderant, I'm going to stop there and translate that verb with what comes before. And then I will get to this conjunction. I will translate this verb with what comes after, because this is going to be ending this piece here, and this is ending the piece before it. Okay, and so I went ahead here and I started translating duces et principes, so the leaders and chiefs. So I just go in order. Gallorum of the Gauls, or Gauls with the apostrophe, right, for genitive. And then we have they killed. And so then I put that little dashed line because it indicates to me I still have another verb, which means this is going to kind of be translated a little bit on its own, as its own piece. And so then I have my translation right below. Once I look at all of this and I place things as verbs, you know, subject, verb, direct objects, that kind of thing. They killed the leaders and chiefs of the Gauls and conquered the Gauls. Okay, and then we get to the final piece here. Post bellum propter metum, Caesaris hostes impetum in Romanos non fecerant. Okay, and so same thing again. Post bellum, I have everything labeled, and I move down here to after the war. You'll notice I don't put gender on anything today because I'm keeping it simple. For these longer ones, I'm going number and case. So then I have post bellum, after the war. Then I move over to propter metum, which translates to on account of the fear. Caesaris, singular genitive of Caesar. Okay, then I have hostes, the enemy, impetum, an attack or a attack, in Romanos, against the Romans, because I have an os, os, so this is an accusative ending. Okay, so that's why I placed the word against there, and I underlined it to remind myself that one can change to something else in case that word doesn't quite work. And then I have my verb non fecerant. Okay, and so they did not make, didn't make, not made, you know, that one can be messed with a little bit. And then I just go ahead and start putting it together into what makes sense, but also acknowledging its cases at the same time. After the war, on account of the fear of Caesar, the enemy did not make an attack against the Romans. Okay, and so then at the end of that, you can just write all your translations out. So I just have my little arrows that kind of show you each piece of that translation. And I did stair step to be able to allow to see everything and to be able to move parts around when I translate. If I don't like on the account of fear, after the war, you know, as you're of Caesar, okay, that's not going to work. You can, okay, I got to find my nominative, right? And so you start working in some of our essentials order for the things that'll help us make it make sense. So I hope that that was helpful to you.